We're going to start off with 300 grams all-purpose flour, just making sure I got it right here. And then 225 grams water, 6 grams salt. And again, this is our 1 hour pizza dough. 7 grams yeast. That's it. It's a simple ingredient list. So we just go ahead and mix up. And all I'm doing here is just trying to make sure that everything is going to be fully incorporated. I don't want any dry ingredients left over. It only takes a few minutes. There's really no technique. You don't have to worry about it. You could use your hands if you wanted to. This is just way cleaner this way because this is a pretty high hydration dough. It's a 75% hydration dough, which is stickier than most common sandwich loaves or anything like that. If you're familiar with sourdough recipes, this is going to be closer to the hydration of your typical sourdough recipe. Okay, so again, I'm just stirring this up, mixing it around to get everything fully incorporated. Getting pretty close here. It's looking pretty good. All right, so I went ahead and got my hands wet, and what I'm doing right now is a stretch and fold because this is a no-knead recipe. So I'm just kind of pinching and stretching up and then folding over on top of itself, stretching. It's pretty stiff right now. It's going to get pretty slack over time, but definitely still pretty stiff. Just getting my hands wet one more time. All right, so now I'm smashing the dough down, and then I'm going to come in and basically form this into a ball. So I start by doing some more folds, and then now I'm just going to start picking it up and letting kind of gravity tuck it underneath itself, as you can see here in just 1 second. So I'm still kind of folding it over, but then here we go. So then I just pick it up and then kind of let it slap down and fold over top of itself, slap down, just tucking the bottom up underneath itself. And I'm doing this until the ball gets nice and tight. Okay, so just want a nice tight ball. I'm going to let this rest for 15 minutes. Then I'm going to come back to some simple stretch and folds. This is very, very similar if you've done no-knead breads before or if you've done sourdough. I'm just pulling up on one little corner and then folding it over, pinching and pulling up and folding it over. I do that about 4 times, and then I do that same technique of forming into a ball by kind of slapping down and letting the bottom tuck underneath itself. Just do it a couple times to form it into a ball. And then I'm going to cover it and let it rest another 15 minutes. We'll come back for another stretch and fold. Make sure those hands are wet. You can see the dough's getting much more slack now. So that's 1 stretch. And really, there's no perfect amount. About 4 is good, but you can see now it's starting to get tight, and that's what you're looking for. You're just stretching until the dough starts to tighten up. So there I did 4. Only a 5 little half one there at the end. Flip it over and start forming it into another ball as I've done from the beginning. Same technique here. Nothing fancy, but again, no need. Super simple. It's really not messy at all. We're going to cover it 15 minutes, and we come back for the dividing and pre-shaping phase. So I'm just flouring a little bit of some parchment paper here because that pan of mine that I have, that sheet pan, is really sticky. I don't know what it is with that thing, but it's super sticky. So I put some parchment paper down, and then I went ahead and floured my work surface and floured the dough just to pull it out, trying not to deflate the dough. We do not want to deflate it. This is what is going to make it a great, fluffy, light pizza dough. Okay, so now I'm just dividing it into 2 even pieces. This will make us 2 medium-sized pizzas. All right, now I'm just rolling this into a ball, just trying to get it into a tight ball. I'm circling around using the bench scraper and my fingers on the left hand to tuck it under. Again, just trying to get a tight ball. Nothing fancy here. We're not adding really much structure at all because this is a flatbread. We don't need to fold it on top of itself and all of that. So just circling around. The tackiness on the bottom of the dough is helping form the ball. So just round it and then push in, round it, and then not push, but slide in, round it, slide until it forms into that ball. Looks nice and tight. You don't want to overdo it though. You can split the top. So once it starts to get tight, go ahead and stop that. Flouring the tops of the balls here quite a bit because I'm going to cover them with a towel and I don't want it to stick to the towel. Okay, so that was a 15-minute rest. So that's 1 full hour working with that dough. And now we're going to actually shape it for the pizza. So once again, parchment paper down. We're going to flour the top of the dough and flour the parchment paper. You want quite a bit of flour because we're going to start to flatten this dough out. And as you flatten the dough, it's going to get quite sticky. So I'm pushing just in the middle of the dough, and then I'm making sure that I don't squeeze the edge because I'm pushing all of the air from the dough into the crust of the pizza. A little bit more flour on top. I'm going to pick this up again. I'm not squeezing or pinching the edges. I'm cupping around the edges so that all of the air is getting pushed and pulled to the outer edge of the pizza. I just simply stopped once I could start to see through the dough in the middle. It got thin enough to where I can see. And again, I'm not pushing down on the crust. I do not want to push or put any pressure on the outer rim because all of the air is going to the crust. That's what's going to give a really light, airy crust that's full of lots and lots of air pockets so that it's not this big, dense piece of bread that you get at the end of eating your slice of pizza. It's actually tasty. You actually want to eat it. And if you want to dip it in any kind of sauce or anything like that, it just picks up in those pockets, those air pockets, picks up all the sauce, and it's just delicious. It's a really, really nice, light crust. Okay, so I'm just working my way around, stretching it out. That's pretty good. And time for toppings. You top with whatever you want. What I did, we have crushed tomato. It's simple and with some salt. That's all that we have in it. This is some whole milk mozzarella. There's some lightly cooked bacon that we're throwing on top with some pineapple. And that's really it. It's a simple recipe. So we bake at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for 8 to 12 minutes. Because we're in a little oven and that's as big as it goes. We are full-time RV travelers. So that's what we have to cook in. If yours goes up to 500 or more, you crank that temperature all the way up. This is the finished results. You see those air pockets in the crust. Nice thin crust, light and airy, delicious. Give it a shot and let us know how yours turns out in the comments. Take care.